So good afternoon, distinguished delegates and colleagues. My name is Chika Hayashi, and I'm one of the senior advisors on monitoring and statistics at UNICEF, and I will be serving as your moderator for the first half of the session. Thank you for joining today's hybrid side event of the High-Level Political Forum on elevating the role of national statistical offices and voluntary national reviews to tackle the data drought of the 2030 agenda. I think this is a great title, and I hope you feel the same as well. We're delighted to host this event here and would like to acknowledge the hard work and dedication of Liliana Supodolska from Paris 21 OECD, the Kenyan government, UNDESA, the EU Commission, and some UNICEF colleagues. They've all made this event happen. Now, without further ado, I have the honor to call on Ambassador John B. Kinyungu, Chargé d'Affaires, Permanent Mission of the Republic of Kenya to the United Nations. Ambassador, over to you.
Thank you, Chika, and good afternoon to all of you. Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Mine is a role that I'm going to carry out on behalf of our Principal Secretary, Mr. Dr. Chris Kipto, would have wished to be here during this time, and especially as a co-host of this very important event. It is an honor to join you this afternoon at this session, which is a high-level political forum side event on elevating the role of national statistical offices in voluntary national reviews to tackle the data of the 2020. I would like to take this opportunity to commend the organizers of this event, to include the European Commission, Paris 21, UNDESA, and UNICEF for the effort of bringing together this distinguished audience to discuss and share experience on data, and we are privileged to be for organizing. At the very onset, we reiterate Kenya's commitment to the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, the 2030 Agenda, and more importantly, we focus on evidence-based reporting on the SDGs. As you are aware, Kenya presented its third PNR on the 12th of July, with the first and the second having been presented in 2017 and 2020, respectively. In all the three cases, the depth and comprehensiveness of the reporting was varied due to data availability across the indicators, underscoring the importance of quality and timely for reporting and for evidence-based. The 2024 PNR reported on 168 indicators out of a total of 248 global indicators, which is an increase from 128 in 2017 PNR and 131 in 2020 PNR. Despite this, we still have big data. Kenya has made significant progress in updating its national indicator frame, but challenges related to SDG data gaps persist, which continue to hinder the effective monitoring of the SDGs implementation. These challenges underscore the need for robust strengthening of the national statistical systems, NSS, and specifically the National Statistical Office, NSOs, in terms of capacity to address data gaps and enhance the quality of reporting. Later, there is a session during which my colleague, President Swange, will be making a presentation on how Kenya is dealing with the issue of statistics based in terms of that. In Kenya, the VNR process relies heavily on the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, the KNBS, to provide, verify, and validate data that is used for reporting. Besides providing data for the VNR process, KNBS is the source of official government statistics, and therefore, building capacity of KNBS to effectively perform this function is critical to the country. Indeed, we must tackle the data drought. We have to achieve timely, evidence-based reporting that reflects the reality of the progress being made in the implementation of the SDGs. To do that, we have to build strong NSOs that will stand the test of time on providing timely, quality, and reliable data for evidence-based planning and budgeting. In conclusion, I reaffirm Kenya's commitment to the implementation of the 2030 Agenda on Sustainable Development and effort to overcome the challenges that lie ahead. We remain committed to fostering a data-driven culture, enhancing institutional capacities, and forging strategic partnerships to ensure effective monitoring of progress and implementation of evidence-based policies that drive sustainable development. We expect that the discussions and recommendations that will come out of this very important side event, coupled with our collaborative support, will set the stage for the accelerating efforts to strengthen national statistics offices, to support SDGs, reporting, and evidence-based planning. We call for continued collaboration and strive for a world where sustainable development is not just an inspiration, but a reality for all. I thank you, Asante sana.
Ambassador, for those inspiring words, not be inspiring, but make everything a reality. And as you said, we'll hear a little bit more from Kenya later. Thank you very much. Now, we will next hear from UNICEF's chief statistician, João Pedro Azevedo, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but has recorded a video message. Over to the video, please.
Welcome everyone to UNICEF House in New York. Though I'm currently in Kenya on official travel, I'm delighted to join you virtually for this significant side event at the High Level Political Forum 2024. As UNICEF Chief Statistician, it is my honor to open this event focused on elevating the role of national statistical offices in voluntary national reviews to address the data drought of the 2030 Agenda. National statistical offices are the backbone of our effort to monitor and achieving the SDGs. They provide the critical data needed to track progress, identify gaps, and inform policy decisions. The VNR process offers countries a unique opportunity to showcase their achievements and challenges in implementing the SDGs. However, without robust and reliable data from NSOs, the effectiveness of VNRs is significantly diminished. Data is not just informative, they are transformative. Investment in data pay an average dividend of $32 for every $1 invested, highlighting the immense value of strengthening national data systems. To support this transformative potential, I'm pleased to highlight the launch of the new toolkit developed by UNICEF Eastern and Southern Africa Regional Office in collaboration with Paris 21. This toolkit is designed to support stakeholders in mainstreaming child rights in strategic planning for national official statistics. It provides practical guidance on how countries can integrate child rights considerations into their national, regional statistical systems, ensuring that the needs of children are at the forefront of our data collection and analysis efforts. By adopting this toolkit, countries can enhance their capacity to produce high-quality, disaggregated data that truly reflects the experience and needs of all children. Now, let me share an example of this in action. Here in Kenya, UNICEF has been actively contributing to the country's statistical capabilities. Our support for the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey in 2022 has been instrumental in providing key indicators for SDG monitoring, with valuable disaggregated data at the country level. This localized data is crucial for addressing inequalities and ensuring that no child is left behind. Furthermore, in collaboration with the World Bank, we have integrated child poverty and inequality analysis in the Household Budget Survey. This highlights the disparities that persist despite national progress and underscores the importance of targeted interventions. Additionally, UNICEF has supported the development of Kenya's latest national plan and several country-level plans embedding SDG indicators to facilitate effective monitoring and localization of the goals. These efforts in Kenya are just one of many examples around the world. As we gather today, let us recognize the indispensable role of NSOs in the VNR process and beyond. I urge governments and development partners to invest in strengthening NSOs, mobilizing resources, and fostering cross-sectoral partnerships. By doing so, we can ensure that data-driven approaches are integrated into national development planning, ultimately leading to more informed and impactful policies. Thank you very much for your unwavering commitment to advancing the SDGs and for your continued support to national statistical systems. I wish you a productive and insightful event here at UNICEF House. Asante sana, thank you very much. Obrigado.
So now we'd like to hand over to Liliana Sukodolska, who is really one of the main organizers of this event, who will present the findings and recommendations from the new Paris 21 report on the role of national statistics offices in voluntary national reviews. Over to you, Liliana.
Thank you very much, Chica. Good afternoon, Excellencies, Ambassadors. Thank you so much for your presence here in the room, to all attendees here and also the participants online. So it's my pleasure to talk about actually two reports today. We have just heard from João Pedro about the toolkit that Paris 21 and UNICEF have developed to mainstream child rights in statistical planning, recognizing that there's no single institution to do it and that we all have to come together to achieve this important goal. My name is Liliana Suchodolska. I'm a policy analyst in Paris 21, which is a partnership in statistics for development in the 21st century. We are hosted at the OECD. We support low and middle income countries to strengthen their national statistical system and ensure that quality data is at the heart of policy. And next slide, please. Oh, yeah, I have. So we're staying still in the universe of national statistical system, and my presentation today is really to launch another publication that we have been developing thanks to the generous funding of the European Commission Directorate General for International Partnerships, which has helped us to understand how voluntary national review refers to statistics and national statistical offices. So the report that we have just developed is shedding light on how voluntary national reviews refer in terms of their vocabulary to statistics. We have used a long list of specific vocabulary such as National Statistical Office System, data gap, monitoring and evaluation to understand how these voluntary national reviews documents that really prioritize the view of governments on the progress on SDGs, how they refer to statistical systems. So this report analyzes these trends and also provides recommendations for governments who wish to strengthen their SDG reporting. You can, for those who are interested to use it, to look at it, you can scan the QR code. I will also be presenting it afterwards at the end. So the report is based on mixed methods of research. We have been using text analysis, we have been using desk research, and also interviews with many statistical offices and governments across the world. And the author of this project is here with us, Mrs. Patrick Osterhoff. if you would like to ask her questions in the lunch break about the report and how it was done, please feel free. So now I would like to guide you through some of the findings of this report. And I brought this slide here as the first thing because it analyzes how actually VNR reports refer to data and statistical terms over time. And we have been looking at really at all VNRs throughout 2016 up until last year, analyzing their reference to statistics. And as you can see, I think the levels here are less important, and it's more the trends that you see that really the reference to statistics in VNRs have picked up in 2016, just when SDGs were launched, and since then have gradually been decreasing. There is some movements, of course, due to the pandemic, a mixed movements of more attention, less attention to statistical system. But I think we need to really dig further into these findings to understand what has happened. So when we analyze actually the use of statistics across regions in their VNRs and across various rounds of voluntary national reviews, like most countries have already submitted 1, 2, or at least or 3 actually voluntary national reviews, we have found a very interesting trend. So if you look at, for example, a trend from Africa, you see a slight decrease in referencing to statistics. Same for Asia and Pacific. I think the first rounds were really, really important when it comes to these references and then decreased. Europe and North America growing, Latin America, there's some volatility there, and Middle East countries are, the references to statistics are actually decreasing over time. The report is trying to uncover some of the reasons behind these trends, but I think it's also interesting to see and to notice that at the same time, while the overall text of voluntary national reviews are referencing less and less statistics, the volume and actually the focus of voluntary national reviews when it comes to statistical annexes has been growing. So the number of voluntary national reviews that have been attaching a statistical annex to provide more in-depth information, more disaggregated data to identify those left behind. Now we can see that in 2023, more than half of countries have been attaching these annexes, and it was only 32% back in 2016. So this is really a positive trend. Now, we have also analyzed how voluntary national reviews refer to the role of national statistical offices in voluntary national reviews. So we have been looking at various roles that have been attributed to them. And we found out that since 2016, on average, only 1/3 of voluntary national reviews have mentioned that statistical offices were part of the institutional SDG mechanisms. And when it comes to data-related efforts, it was around 40%. So this is really not a lot. We believe that actually the truth is that they might have been, in fact, the statistic will be much higher. It's just voluntary national reviews do not always provide that kind of in-depth information for users. So another interesting trend I think that we found here is what actually is happening once a voluntary national review is finished, and how the findings of that review, when it comes to whole of government approaches, looking at data gaps in the government, looking at use of statistics, how this is actually informing statistical strategic planning. So that's statistical strategic planning is something that we really value as a tool of mobilizing resources for improved data use by governments. But that's also an instrument of coordination of statistical activities and partnerships. And we have found that across all years of voluntary national reviews, that reference to national strategic planning for statistics has been very low. It usually stayed below 20%. So I brought here one of the principles of 2030 agenda just for us to think a bit about how this principle really transcends to the very mandate of national statistical offices, and how we can basically think of what underpins the 2030 agenda and how we strengthen our own institutions to deliver on the premise of that agenda. So the principle says that these voluntary national reviews will be rigorous and based on evidence informed by country-led evaluations and data, which is of high quality and disaggregated. So I think this is a very good reflections as we move forward. The report uncovers also some recommendations for governments who wish to strengthen that evidence base of their SDG reporting. And some of them I'm bringing here, but you can please also check the report. There's many interesting insights over there. So first of all, it's important that governments build on the coordination and data quality assurance aspect of the national statistical offices. So that's very often the basic mandate that is recognized by government, but it's not always used to to its full potential. And that mandate, when it's actually leveraged, can really strengthen the policy coherence, can strengthen the horizontal coordination of data. When we think of use of administrative data for SDG reporting, that mandate is really important. It also refers to the vertical coordination of SDG reporting. When we think of how national statistical offices interact with subnational offices and subnational authorities, how they strengthen their ownership of 2030 agenda, how they interact with local actors. I think this is also a very interesting thing we should be looking at. And that really calls to this data stewardship role of national statistical offices that the statistical community has been calling upon for so long. Secondly, the report provides a suggestion or an inspiration to develop a data roadmap, and this is in line with UNSD practical guide on evidence-driven voluntary national review, on which our report has been really based. Thirdly, we consider that the VNR should be really a beginning of a long-term journey. So all the issues of statistical capacity that have been identified in this process should really inform or build on existing national strategy for the development of statistics. Many countries use that instrument of coordination and resource mobilization and user engagement, and these strategies should really be informed by the voluntary national review findings. So thank you very much for your attention. Please consult the report. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them in the lunch break. Please post for the online audience your questions in the online chat. We'll be happy also to transfer them to the users. I thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liliana, for sharing those findings, which I'm sure will be useful as you try to ensure NSOs are provided the right roles and resources to carry important function. Next presentation will be on Kenya's data journey for evidence-based VNRs by Benjamin Agusevo, Director of Statistical Coordination and Methods, who's stepping in for the Director General of the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, McDonald Obudo, and will be presenting online. Over to you.
Your Excellency, distinguished guests, good afternoon. I will be presenting on behalf of the Director General of Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, Dr. McDonald Obudo, on the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics data journey to evidence-based voluntary national review, that the efforts undertaken to close data gaps and improve data quality. And next. The presentation is outlined. We'll have a discussion on the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics role in the VNR process, the National Sustainable Development Goals Indicator Framework, and the challenges with the administrative data and statistics. We'll also be looking at the harnessing new data sources for SDG statistics and capacity development initiatives. And then we'll have conclusions. Next. We explore the journey of voluntary national review process with a focus on the data coordination of the national statistical system, the VNR process, and also addressing the SDG data gaps and ensuring data quality. These are the principles that we use in the VNR process. Next. In this VNR process, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics works very closely with the State Department for Economic Planning, which is the government agency responsible for the VNR process in Kenya. And our role is to ensuring that we have data that comes across all areas, especially from government department agencies. We verify this data to ensure that they conform to the right quality and they conform to the right methodology for computing the SDGs that we compute. This is done through a process where we have technical working groups across many thematic areas that we look at the data that is provided to ensure that it conforms with the right standards. And we have a framework that we use to ensure that data quality is maintained. The Kenya National Indicator Framework is updated on an annual basis, which informs the report on VNR process, especially the 2024 VNR report. Next. Our contribution in the 2024 VNR review, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics supply the right information to the State Department of Economic Planning when they are preparing the VNR report, and we ensure that the quality of that information is of the highest degree. We also, in this year's VNR report, we in KNBS also participated in the reviewing the VNR report and validating the data that was used. And this was also done in the consultation with the ministries, department, agencies that provided the data, especially the administrative data. And where there was cases of discrepancies, we had to ensure that we close up the gaps and be able to have the right information. So this is done under very vigorous data quality checks. And again, in this VNR report, we also took advantage of other stakeholders, especially the non-state actors, where we also had a get-together where we had to validate some of the data that came through, and therefore we were able to use some of the data from the CGD. And we are happy that in this VNR, we participated fully, and we have now provided a statistical annex for the VNR report. Next. Next. Just a glimpse of our journey in terms of the improving on reporting on SDGs indicator framework. Our journey began in 2016. Where we designed the National Indicator Framework. And in 2016, we had 128 indicators reporting on. In 2020, we had 131 indicators. And now in 2024, we have 168 indicators that we're reporting on. And this is really the effort that we have had to do with consultation with MDAs. And we're also very grateful that we are able to work with the non-state actors that has also provided some of the indicators that we're reporting on, and also in terms of the points that we have been reporting on. Next. If you look at the share in terms of the data sources that we are using to report on SDGs, you see easily that we are majority of the indicators that we're reporting on, we use the administrative data, which is really important for us as something that we need to strengthen to ensure that we have right quality of data from administrative data, because this is where is the major source of our data. Of course, 34% is from census and surveys, and we're also grateful for the support we have gotten to undertake some of the critical surveys, such as the DHS 2020 survey. And we're also planning to undertake the Kenya Integrated Household Budget Survey which will also improve on the data sources. This is some of the critical surveys that we do to ensure that we have continuous flow of information, and as well as we want also to expand the scope of data that is coming from the state non-state actors, so that we can now reuse their data to ensure that we also increase the coverage of our reporting on the SDGs indicators. Next. Out of the 168 indicators that we have reported, this represents about 67.7% of the total indicator framework, the global one, which is 248%. So this is something that we are working on, and we are hopeful by doing other surveys we are going to undertake. For example, we are now conducting the Kenya school census of schools, and we are also planning to undertake the Kenya Integrated Household Budget Survey that will also improve this coverage to a higher number, and we expect that with support of the international community, we should be able to undertake these surveys and censuses to improve on this progress. Next. Of course, this is what we are talking about, that we still have a lot of data gaps. That is reporting on the indicators, because we have only have 168 indicators out of the 248. It means there is a lot of data gaps that exist. And even though those ones that we report on, we still have some data gaps within some of them. And we wish to close these gaps, and we hope that some of the data gaps that some of the indicators that we report on, again, we need to disaggregate them to even to the standard that is required with the methodology for computing these indicators. So by undertaking the up-to-date surveys and also strengthening the administrative data sources, we should be able to improve on our coverage. Next. Within the data gaps, we also find that we still have in terms of the lags within especially on survey data that is reported from surveys, we still have data gaps. Time lag, we can have up to 1 to 2 years. The indicator that we're reporting on, we have about 11 indicators that have that lag of 1 to 2 years. We have about 16 indicators that we report where we have a lag of 3 or 4 years. And sometimes we have a lag of 5+ years. You may recall that, for example, we get a lot of indicators from the Kenya Integrated Household Budget Survey, but the last that we conducted was in 2015-16. And we are now planning to do the next one, and you can see the gap is about 10 years. So in the improvement of some of these, the regularity of doing these surveys, and of course, strengthening the administrative data sources, as well as the SDGs reuse of the citizen-generated data, we could be able to close up in terms of this data time lag. Next. As we said earlier, that in validating the data that comes into the VNR report, we undertake data quality assessments, and currently we are having the Kenya Statistical Quality Assurance Framework, which is the basis for which we validate statistics, and this is as well as we also have what we are calling the Kenya Statistical Code of Practice, that we also extend to the MDS to ensure that the data that they provide to us meets the right standard using that framework. So, and with the support from the technical working groups, we are able to validate the data that we are using in the VNR report. Next. Of course, as we said, the majority of the data that we receive is from the administrative data sources, and we talked about 65% of the indicators that we report on are from administrative data sources. We require, we encounter a lot of challenges, and we wish to be able to really look at what is coming from these data sources. We also have sometimes the differences in reference period, the target population when we are reporting on some of this data that we report on SDGs. We also have some discrepancy between administrative data and surveys that we conduct because sometimes of the references that we use and also the measurements. This is the reason why we need to look into capacity building to ensure that some of these discrepancies are overcome. The use of non-standard units isn't in the administrative data is also an issue, which we need a lot of training to be able to have this done. Especially recognizing that in most of the MDAs that who report some of this data have limited capacity in statistical matters and in analyzing data. So it means that we need to upgrade this area. Next. The other emerging issue is the reuse of the citizen-generated data. And we are proud that in Kenya, we are really working very closely with the civil society organization, and with the help of the Kenya SDG Kenya Forum, we've been able to bring together so many SDGs as a civil society organization, and we've been able to be able to expand to them the need for them to have their data they use so that we can reuse that data for reporting on SDGs. We are happy that we have also developed criteria for validating the citizen-generated data, and we have already formed a technical working group with civil society organization so that we can be looking at their data so that we can reuse for the purposes of official reporting. We are happy that we have examined about 30 data sets from several civil society organizations, and we were able to use some of the data into the 2024 National Indicator Framework on SDGs. We specifically, we utilized on the indicator 4.11 and SDG indicator 5.33 into the National Indicator Framework. Next.
Ben, could you please wrap up slowly?
Yes, KNBS is committed to using citizen-generated data, and we plan to build on these issues. Next. We require capacity building, and this is some of the issues that we want to do, and we have put this into the Kenya Strategy for Development Statistics for the year 2024 to 2027, and we believe that this is really the core for advancing the improvement on SDGs. Next. In conclusion, KNBS will continue to play a vital role in advancing SDGs in Kenya by providing quality data, exploration and use of alternative data sources to close up data, and continual cooperation with partnership with the development partners and stakeholders. And we're happy to report the close relationship we have with Paris 21, UNICEF, and others in this agenda. Next. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Ben, for your presentation. I think we have all appreciated the very rich presentation by Ben Avosevwa, showcasing how KNBS have been strengthening this whole of government, but also whole of society approaches through citizen-generated data that has been operationalized by Kenya, which is really serving an example for the citizen data collaborative that has been created 2 years ago. So I wanted to recognize that. And it's my pleasure to introduce the panel, which will be moderated by Chika Hayashi. And I hand over now to you, Chika, to introduce our special guest. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to go right into the questions and I will introduce the guests as we ask the questions. So let us first start with Festus Wangwe, who is online with us. You are the Director of International Frameworks Coordination Division at the State Department for Economic Planning of Kenya. From the perspective of the State Department for Economic Planning, the institution in charge of the third VNR of Kenya, what capacities were needed in the government to use statistics from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics to identify those left behind? Festus, I hope you're with us.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. The 2024 VNR process was very enriching, and it actually helped us to identify the capacity requirements to deliver on evidence-based VNRs that can actually inform our next steps in terms of accelerating the achievement of the SDGs. As we were doing that, we were heavily relying on information being supplied by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, which is the official government national statistic office that actually gives the official statistics that we use across the government. So in that process, we identified 4 areas that we still have capacity challenges that moving forward we may want to strengthen. One of the areas we noticed was statistics analytical skills. The issue of data analysis still is a challenge across government. Most of the officers who are dealing with the SDGs and reporting happen to have some challenges in terms of how to analyze and present this data. Therefore, moving forward, as the director in charge of the statistics at the Kenya Bureau of Statistics has said, it will be important that we build capacity in technical analytical skills to help in data collection, analysis, presentation of the data in the manner that is required. The other area we noticed that we have challenges in terms of capacity is knowledge and understanding of the SDGs indicators. To be able to report effectively on the progress, you require sufficient knowledge and understanding of the SDGs indicators. Most of the officers responsible for reporting have limited comprehension or understanding of the SDGs indicators in terms of the data needs for specific indicators. This makes it very difficult for them to generate and compute the data in the format and the levels of disaggregation that would adequately address the needs of the specific indicators in reporting. And this actually impedes effective reporting. Therefore, more capacity is required in that area to boost their knowledge and understanding of the specific indicators. Then the other area that we note that we require further capacity is data interpretation and visualization. To effectively communicate, you need capacity to accurately interpret and present data in the format that reflects the reality on the ground and is also understood by the VNR users. There are very many ways in which data can be presented. For example, you can put it in bar charts, graphs, pie charts, and being able to understand the various forms in which you can present this data so that it can be understood is very important. So we notice that we need to have more capacity in that area. The fourth area is in terms of capacity in scientific modeling to determine the level of achievement of the SDGs. Currently, we are reporting SDGs based on trends, how indicators are changing from point A to point B. That's how we are reporting the progress. However, we need capacity to the extent that we are able to determine that a particular indicator or a target or the SDG in total is at a certain percentage of achievement so that we are able to determine what is remaining for us to achieve, and therefore how much resources, how much efforts do we put in to cover the remaining period. The kind of reporting we are doing now on trend basis is not enough because we are not able to determine what percentage overall that we have achieved the SDGs. Therefore, we'll require capacity in that scientific modeling to determine the level of achievement. In a nutshell, we actually require to build capacity across all the ministries and the MDS so that they are able to report on these SDGs. We'll be reaching out to Paris 21 and other partners moving forward to collaborate and support to us so that we are able to build these statistical capacities, particularly in technical analysis and presentation of the data. In the next VNR, we want to be able to state that Kenya is at X percentage in terms of achievement of the SDGs and requires X resources to achieve the remaining part of the SDGs. That will be a big stride ahead if we are able to realize that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'd like to move to Anahit Safian, also online, who is the Deputy President of Armstat from Armenia. In this year's VNR process, what was Armstat's experience when it comes to communicating SDG statistics with the government? Over to you, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anahit Safian. I represent Statistical Office of Armenia, Armstat. And thank you very much for this opportunity to share our experience on communication of SDG statistics. Our communication is implemented through two visualization tools. One is National Reporting Platform on SDGs, and the second one is Trend Assessment Dashboard. Armenia is among countries using open source data platform for SDGs that successfully developed its own customized platform, which is a key tool for disseminating and reporting our national statistics for the global SDGs indicators. Platform also provides the framework for monitoring progress towards the implementation 2030 agenda. Thanks to our resource partner support, the UNFPA IOM Armenia country offices, and technical support by data scientists from the Center for Open Data Enterprise, CODE, we launched our platform in 2019 using the experience of US. Then I want to mention that our platform has own peculiarities. It allows to show targets on the goal pages and display data for global indicators as well as national indicators that are additional indicators, and they are intending to be temporary contributions. We display our data in tabular and graphic forms. Another tool is a trend assessment dashboard that we launched thanks to UNSCAP support this year to support analytical work carried out by public institutions with a certain political orientation. Dashboard supports to assess SDGs progress and provides necessary evidence for stakeholder engagement and sustainable development prioritization. It also supports the preparation of VNR. Dashboard provides three types of visualization. First, overview shows the proportion of indicators under each goal by the status of progress, progressing, stagnant, regressing. And the second shows progress for all time series, including disaggregation. The third shows changes since 2020. I want to mention that both dissemination platforms are very important coordination tools for the national statistical system. They support us to increase our leading and coordinating role. For Armenia, this is the third time to present the reviews. Armstat was actively participating in the preparation process, and this process supported us to improve our data on SDGs, also to assess the progress and reveal challenges in the implementation of our goals. And I want to mention that we are still facing challenges that are as follows: lack of data disaggregation, lack of new surveys or introducing new modules in existing surveys, lack of methodologies, data sources, lack of use of administrative data, as my colleague mentioned from Kenya, lack of use of non-traditional sources, data sources, big data, geospatial information. To conclude, I want to mention that in the context of our activities on communicating SDGs, including VNR, that is an accountability and transparency tool for the public, just I want to draw your attention to the statement by the UNDP Armenia office. Armstat is one of the first go-to partners of data-driven initiatives in Armenia, namely in the public policy sector. All our activities contribute to building public trust that is crucial for us. That is from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now back to the room. Heather Page, you are a statistician at the United Nations Statistics Division of DESA. You've overseen SDG progress monitoring at the global level and supported VNRs, preparing countries for many years now. How can VNR reports strengthen their peer learning potential when it comes to best data practices?
Thank you, Chika. Thank you for the question and also for having me on the panel. So regarding your question specifically, and I know I have very few minutes, so I will be very quick. We often say in the global workshops for the VNR countries that we're really very, very interested to hear about your data journey for the VNR. So this could include a dedicated data chapter like the UK has done in the past, or a section in the methodology of the report, or even as part of the statistical annex that outlines the VNR data journey. Another recommendation from our practical guide on developing evidence-based VNRs, we outline the steps for developing a VNR data roadmap, and this type of information could be incorporated as well into the VNR to showcase how the evidence base is developed. And this information is useful not only for the data community and for peer learning in general, but also for everyone who reads and engages with the VNR in country. It really highlights how the national data ecosystem supports SDG reporting and by extension also the VNR reporting. For other ways to enhance peer learning, I think opportunities like this dialogue are really crucial. Sharing the data journey for the VNR with both data experts and policymakers is a really valuable experience and tool. And additionally, resources that showcase these experiences can also aid peer learning. We are currently updating our practical guide for developing evidence-based VNRs, and we really welcome your experiences. This update aims to provide more concrete examples on how countries overcome coordination challenges, how they approach data mapping and filling data gaps, as well as incorporating non-traditional data sources, enhancing visuals and data storytelling, and also how the VNRs align with the overall SDG reporting in the country. So I'll stop there. I have more, but we can chat later. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Heather.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of our panelists here in the room, but also online. Thank you for sharing those insights of capacity building and building trust. I think it's a very important discussion we should still continue to have. It's now, I would like to put some emphasis on the questions. They are coming already on the chat and we will have some time to address them. But then let me now, in the interest of time, reverse the order a bit and invite Ambassador Axel de la Maisonneuve, EU Ambassador to the United Nations Economic and Social Council and Head of International Partnerships and Sustainable Development at the EU Delegation to the United Nations.
Very much. Thank you, Derek. Well, we're not at the end of this workshop, but I would like to make a few stock-taking remarks, if you allow me. because the discussion has already been rich. And first of all, the European Union is honored to be part of the host of this event, which is very important. We've been through a VNR process at the European Union which materialized last year in the presentation of not our VNR, but our VR, our voluntary review. The N has moved away for reasons that you can imagine. And it was a fascinating exercise, which took months and months, actually more than 1 year, to get prepared. And what we have realized from that experience was that a VNR is not only about taking stock of a particular situation, of a particular entity at a particular moment in time. It's also about giving forward-looking guidance on how to accelerate progress towards the SDGs. And it is therefore essential not to provide wrong guidance, that these reviews are based on robust, timely, and relevant data. So that's the first point I wanted to make. The second point I would like to make is about national statistical offices, and that has been highlighted already a couple of times in this discussion. It is crucial to give NSOs a clear coordinating role that goes beyond data collection. NSOs can also be key players in user engagement, data coordination, quality assurance, local ownership, and forging partnerships with data providers such as ministries, civil society organizations, private sector, NGOs, academia, or researchers. This role should preferably be embedded in the National Strategy for the Development of Statistics, NSDS, and the General SDG reporting architecture. So really, I would like to highlight here at this stage the strategic role in terms of sustainable development planning of the NSOs. And this is something that transpires VNR after VNR, I would say, and that needs to be fully taken into account. My third point is about VNRs themselves. They are a good opportunity to build momentum, but the journey does not stop here. VNRs should trigger concrete actions to strengthen statistical capacity that could then feed into national strategies, with the ultimate goal for data to inform policy decisions. That has already been raised, and I would like to underline this. Using the VNR as a baseline or as a springboard towards sustainable data solutions, countries can establish long-term goals for data collection, analysis, and dissemination that are anchored in national priorities for sustainable development. The EU is proud to support countries in their data journey to evidence-based VNRs and policymaking through this action, and similar programs and initiatives like the Pan-African Statistics Program 2, the PASS2, that we also funding. So big thanks to everyone who has made this workshop, this event possible. It is really an important topic, and there is statistics and data at stake, but there is also policy making. And this is how important this issue is. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your contribution. I really value the support of the European Commission for making this project, and also support to countries like Kenya in the Voluntary National Review. So now I would like to open the floor for questions from the audience. I have seen that there have been questions online that have already been answered by KNBS. Thank you for that as well. But if there is anyone here in the room who would like to ask questions to our presenters and panelists, please go ahead. I see a hand up. Let me give you a mic because I think the online audience will not hear you.
Thanks. Stephen Chacha from Development Initiatives. Question to Ben. You mentioned that you reviewed data from 30 civil society organizations and only some data from 2 CSOs actually passed the quality criteria that is actually there. I'm keen to learn more on the experience. What were the key lessons, that you learned from that process, and how can we help, civil society organization to address the challenges that you identified, in that process. Then the second question to Ben again, in regards to the subnational data ecosystems. You mentioned about the fragmentation that is there between national, statistics and administrative data. So what investments are being made in Kenya to strengthen subnational data ecosystems?
Thank you for this question. Ben, before you address these questions, let me take one more question from the floor. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Stephen Jackson, UN Resident Coordinator in Kenya. And thank you for the excellent addresses and presentations. So just a comment and a question also for Ben. The comment is just building on what was said earlier about the collaboration with UNICEF on developing the toolkit. I just wanted to pay tribute to all of the innovative work that KNBS is doing in this kind of an area. There's also now in place for a couple of years a very interesting memorandum of understanding between KNBS and the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights on bringing a human rights lens to the collection of national data. And I think it's a really interesting model, and we'd be happy to share more about that. My question goes in the same direction as my namesake from Kenya, Stephen, about citizen-generated data. And I think it's very interesting that there's been this push on working with CSOs, but I wanted also to ask about the private sector. I think in Kenya, this is a massive gold mine, a treasure trove of potential data. And I'll just give you one example. Many of you who know Kenya will know that we don't carry cash. We do all of our payments and the rest of it over our cell phones on M-Pesa. And the estimate is, I think, half of national GNP flows through that one digital platform every day, which means that there's a massive untapped reservoir of data on things like income, expenditure, and one can break it down sectorally, one can break it down geographically. So if you put in place the right kinds of safeguards, Kenya could actually be on the forefront of showing how you use data from the digital domain and from the private sector to power the next VNR. So Ben, just wondering, the question is, how can we work on that together? Thanks.
Thank you so much. Really excellent question. And there's one more, please.
Thank you. I want to thank the organizers. I'm Minister of Public Service, Labor and Social Services in Zimbabwe, and I coordinate with the SDGs. I thought the experience that we are getting from Kenya is very valuable, especially on data collection. I just wanted to find out of the 168 out of 248, if Kenya would be able to give us the disaggregated indicators so that we can see what gaps we might have in our own situation. Is Kenya willing to share with us at a disaggregated 248, not 168? Second thing is non-traditional data collection. I would say traditional data collection. There are institutions, for instance, in Zimbabwe, which we have worked with UNICEF in the past, where we have 35,000 villages. The country in the rural areas is divided into 35,000 villages. And each village, in my view, is a source for data collection. I call it traditional methods of data collection, whether Kenya is using that. Apart from the CSOs, labor, for instance, we have organized labor in our delegation. We have organized business in our delegation. So what the coordinator is saying in Zimbabwe, we already use it, apart from CSOs, but just those traditional data collection sources. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your question. And that's really the last one, because then we have to wrap up. There's online presence at the house. We have to also respect the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Liliana, is my time now?
Yes. No, please, Ben, there's one more question and then you can
sorry.
go ahead.
Yes, my question is to Ben and also from Anahit Safian from the National Statistical Office of Armenia. My question is, look, I know this HLPF is all about countries' performance against SDGs, but my question is, how much is all the infrastructural investment into SDG reporting actually contribute for countries to be able to do interventions that are meaningful and not only for reporting purposes? That is my question. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Excellent questions from the floor. So Ben, I gathered three important topics here: the CGD reporting, the reporting from using the private data sources, but also how do you plan to maybe share more insights on the statistical annex and SDG reporting that you have managed to post this year. And if you could share some lights on also on the last question on the infrastructure investment and how it really contributes to SDG monitoring. If I capture it, please, over to you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Liliana, and thank you for those questions. I think it is interesting, the interest we've got, and we believe that we are good in making a good progress. In terms of the experiences we have with working with the citizen-generated data, you may recall that most of these arrangement we've been having with CGD is because we realized that they have data. And right from the insight that when they were collecting the information, KNBS was not involved in the data collection system. So we realized there's a lot of gaps in terms of methodology in their collection. And therefore, they didn't have the intention of having the data quality systems into when they were collecting the data. And again, the focus was not on reporting for official statistics. So these gaps, we realized that some of the data that they were having data quality deficiencies in terms of either the sampling procedure to make sure that they have scientific in data collection, and then in terms of so that we can have the data that we produce is reliable. So the lessons we learned is that we need to work with these civil society organizations, right from the design of the data collection, and then in terms of also the data collection itself, as well as the analysis, so that probably we can improve on the level of using this data from them for official reporting. That is some of the lessons that we've learned. And that one brings me to the second question that in the strategy that we want to employ, where we are now calling the Kenya Strategy for Development of Statistics 2, that is the second edition, we are now expanding our data ecosystem to ensure we have the civil society part of and parcel of our national statistical system, so that they will conform to the Kenya quality assurance framework in their data collection or data activities. The other question was about how do we now incorporate other data sources. So, for example, he talked about the private sector data. I think Kenya, we have recognized that this is also another rich source of information. And with the blessing of the Director General of Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, he has set up what we are calling the data science unit, which we want to advance the collaboration with the private sector. And we're in the process of forming a technical committee on big data, and this will be able to bring on board the private sector, especially in terms of mobile data, as well as scanner information, so that we can be able to tap into private sector and then bring on board into our data, our national statistical system. We should be able to have them part and parcel of our technical committees to advance this course so that we can be able to advance in the use of the private data, especially the big data that is available.
Then I think we will stop here, and I will be happy to collect remaining questions and answers and link you with questions. I think we have to respect also that some of the present participants here will have to catch up with the HLPF session. So let me thank you so much for your great participation, those online and those here in the room. Thank you for your great remarks. We are taking them with us. I think all of us here are co-organizers of this event. So let me also thank UNICEF, UNDESA, European Commission, and the government of Kenya for supporting this event. We are so grateful for this partnership, and we really hope to strengthen that capacity of national statistical system with you further. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good day. And for those present here, I invite you to have a light snack before you head to the next session. Thank you so much.
Thank you and bye-bye.